Okay, good morning everybody, or good afternoon. Nobody cares, you don't care, I don't care. Now today we're going to be looking at something you didn't vote for, which seems a little bit naughty of me considering that I made you vote, and then I said that whatever you vote for we'll actually be studying, and I meant it. Now I know that's confusing, so let me explain. Most of you in almost every class voted for Atlantis, so I think most people want to know more about Atlantis. And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy for us to go into Atlantis. It's a subject that I'm interested in, and I think it's a lot more complex than most people think. So we are going to look at it, but before we can, we've got to do a little bit of groundwork. We've got to lay a bit of a foundation. Now, one of the reasons I'm going to hold off on Atlantis for a few days is because I need to read another book. You can hear something in the background. It's because I have a small child who's getting bored. Now I need to read another book. I read a very, very good book on the subject, which claimed Atlantis was probably in one place where the guy had found it, and he was pretty convinced he had found it, and the evidence was also extremely convincing. And it fitted in together with a lot of other things that I've read as well. Now, I don't know why he changed his mind, but he did, and he's published another book on the subject. And I do respect this writer. He's a writer and not exactly a scientist, but he's a renowned journalist who changed from political and news journalism into archaeology. Do respect his opinion. He's well respected in the field. And I think it's worth reading the other book and finding out why he's changed his information. So I'm going to do that first and see what he's got to say. I've got his book, and next week, I think on Monday, we're going to start the Atlantis thing, and hopefully that will be the end of it, and we'll be coming back to school. We'll see. So what I'm going to do now is lay the foundations and build us up to studying Atlantis. And I'll probably present the book to you. I'll probably put it into Google Classroom, so anybody who's really interested in reading about this stuff can also get a deeper dive into it by reading all of the information about it. Until then, we've got to build the foundation. We've got to get from where we are now to the point where you're going to understand all of the things we're talking about. And the first step towards doing that is the Annunuki. So we're going to be studying those today. We're going to look at a video about the Annunuki, which is extremely interesting because it's going to cover all of the sort of things that we're talking about. It goes into the first civilization. The first break in civilization is supposed to be Sumeria. Now in Sumeria, there was a technological explosion that science, modern science, contemporary science can't explain. The best explanation for it is that a bunch of farmers suddenly decided to get together and build an almost perfect city that we can't build today. Some of the structures are beyond our technology now and way beyond our planning. Look at Phnom Penh. It's a higgledy-piggledy mess. You know, streets go all over the place. There's no real structure to anything. There's a bit being developed over here, another bit being developed over there. None of the streets line up. Now, you know from your field trips where we've gone out to some of the ancient cities, like Angkor City, everything was developed properly. There were straight lines, everything was laid out nicely, neatly, and in some sort of civilized way. We've lost all of that ability. We can't do it in it. There's no city today that's built to that standard. There's no proper planning anywhere. So you've got to wonder what we've lost along the way. So Sumeria was way, way, way ahead of its time. And there's no way that a bunch of farmers or a bunch of hunter-gatherers just got together and suddenly developed all the techniques required to build an advanced civilization. That just simply cannot happen. He's being annoying. I do apologize if you can hear him. So, we're going to look at the Annunuki. Now, the Annunuki are believed to be an ancient race of aliens who purportedly came to Earth and created humanity as a second wave of slaves. Now, this ties into a lot of other stories about how they manipulated our DNA, how they created us to serve them. There's also many, many theories that go in and out of this, like that part of our genetic heritage comes from Mars. And we were engineered on Mars. The slaves rebelled against the aliens, thrown out, came here, and all of these tie back into religious stories. And what's really interesting is when we search these things out archaeologically, we do find evidence of them. This also goes into the Great Flood. Now, you've all heard the story of Noah's Ark, where Noah built a huge ship. He was told to by God, built a huge ship and saved 2 of every animal, and then rebuilt society afterwards. And that's an allegory, but all the major religions have a similar flood story. And something definitely did happen. Something happened. The earth was covered in water, and it was wiped out by something. And we don't know what. Take the pyramids, and we're going to be looking at those as well. Take the pyramids in Egypt. They're much older than we're told by Egyptologists. And one of the reasons we absolutely know that is that they've been studied by geologists who have confirmed that they have water damage. So they've been underwater at some point in their prehistory, and we know that that's happened a lot longer ago than they're supposed to have stood. So there's something very strange going on there as well. So a great flood came over the earth. Now in biblical terms, God was angry and killed everybody with a great flood so he could have a reset. Now that might be exactly what happened. If these aliens are what we consider to be gods, they came down, they were beaten by their slave race, and they decided to wipe them out and start again. That's perfectly plausible, and when we look back at the ancient texts, we do find lots of references to multiple gods fighting and warring over the human race, some of them wanting to destroy them, some of them wanting to keep them and let them develop. And the Bible is made up out of lots of weird stories of these things that don't always mesh together. So we're going to have a look at the Annunuki today. We're going to look at them as an introduction and a foundation to who and what we might be. And we have to take all this with a grain of salt because it's just so ancient that we have no records. All we have is what was written at the time and what we can see and study at the time. And then it's filtered through a lens of modern archaeology and through pseudoscience by people who aren't qualified scientists as well. So we've got a lot of different opinions masquerading as facts, and we have to carefully sift through them and choose what we want to believe and why we want to believe it. We can't just look at the evidence and say, well, I don't like this. We have to look at the evidence and decide what is the most plausible, whether we like it or not. Were we built as a slave race? Did we replace another slave race? Is there another slave race that replaced us? So all of those questions we're going to look at in the next few days. And we're going to start with the Annunuki. Now I've got a video for you. I didn't make it because honestly I simply don't have time to make something of this quality. So when you see the video you'll understand. It's got a brilliant narrator narrating the text. It's got nice graphics that show what Sumerian cities might have looked like. It's got lots of things going on in the background. It's a really well-made video, and it's way beyond what I can make in the classroom at this point because I simply don't have the time. So I think it's better to just run a video that exists. And I've also given you a quiz on it. Now I'm happy for you. What I want you to do, in fact, is to go to Google Classroom, follow the YouTube link, and go off and watch the video on your own because I know how bad the video looks when we embed it in Google Meet. So feel free to go watch the YouTube video. When you do that, there's also a quiz. I'm happy for you to have the quiz running because I've put them in the same thing for a very good reason. I've put them together so you can watch them and do the quiz at the same time if you want to. What I suggest is that you watch the video and write some notes, and then when you go back to the quiz, it's a lot easier. Now, it's only 10 questions. They're multiple choice. It's very simple. And what I've done is I've kind of pushed you to look for the answers. It's quite hard, and I've pushed you so that you can start thinking about all this for yourself. Now, this is only the beginning. Take this as an introduction to an interesting subject and launch it off and go and do some of your own research, okay? So if you look on Google Classroom, there's this video, the introduction, then you've got the one that is related to the quiz, and then we've got a question where I want you to give me some additional facts. So I want you to go out, do a little research on your own, and give me some interesting facts about the Annunuki that are not included in the video. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to be checking that before the end of class. I want everyone to find at least one interesting fact and post it as an answer to the question. And that's what we're doing today. That's going to take us into tomorrow when we develop this even further. So enjoy the video, enjoy the lesson, and I hope we all learn something new and interesting about the world around us.